I'm Glen White.
Oh, no, hold on. Welcome back to Unfiltered Unspoken Podcast. And we told you we're going to continue to share life experiences. This is an amazing episode because when we first started the podcast, Glen White was one of our first guests talking about his his heart transplant. I apologize. He went through some stuff. We're not going to get into it. We're going to get into it once we get into the episode. But welcome back, Glen, and he's joined with his wife, Mikhail. So this is such an honor to have you back again. Glen and Mikhail, if you could come up and introduce yourself, and then City Sid is going to kick off that first question.
Absolutely, and thanks for having us back. Glen White, I guess heart transplant recipient, and this is my wife, Mikhail. And we've been married now 11 years, and we have 3 kids together. And what do you want to say?
A lot of dogs.
we do have a lot of dogs. It's like 1 per kid. So, yeah, I think that's without giving too much away so far. That's about it for us right now.
Well, thank you again for being here with us, or returning here to be here with us. So we will start off. Last time you were here, were telling us a little bit about, the transplant, how it works, what your condition was like at the time, what's required of someone that's receiving an organ. Tell us a little bit about what has happened since the last time we spoke, if you've had any complications, how your body has been handling everything. Just give us a little update about that.
Yeah, sure. I guess I was on the podcast in 2022, and in 2023, I actually got sick again. At first, they didn't really know what was going on, but they were kind of checking different things, and ultimately, it led to rejection. I spent most of 2024 in and out of the hospital, and that ended with me getting another heart transplant in April of. I'm sorry. I went into the hospital in April, got the transplant in May, and left the hospital this past June. So it's been about 6 months now, almost. Yeah, about almost 6 months now that I've been out and got another heart. So
on your 3rd heart.
Yeah, I'm on my 3rd. Yes. So.
Oh, wow. I want to ask, how did you know that you were in need of another heart transplant? What were some of the complications?
Well, what exactly?
I mean, your energy level started to tank.
Yeah.
He'd been working out a lot and just very active, and he just wasn't well. You could just tell that he wasn't feeling well. And they test blood work fairly regularly, and so they started to notice some levels were off. And then, I mean, honestly, I would say this was Thanksgiving of 2023. We didn't know yet what was wrong, but he was getting really dizzy. You remember that?
Yeah.
And that progressed and became, severe dizziness and turned into, he had a couple seizures. He passed out, just flat out blacked out, passed out in parking lots. So it became pretty obvious that he wasn't doing well.
Yeah.
But as time went on.
Yeah, the seizures were pretty bad. It was actually, they discovered eventually after a little while that the seizures were based on the arteries that feed blood to my heart had started like growing lesions inside of them. So my heart wasn't getting enough blood, and that was causing me to black out if I would stand up too fast. So that was a bad situation. And that was kind of like I guess I'd say the beginning of the end of when it really started to go downhill pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Outside of, just how your, body was feeling itself, or, how it affected you, what were, some of the clinical reasons you were given, or what did they say was different between when you first received the heart to when you were getting sick? Like, medically, did they say, give you a specific reason as to why the heart did not take, or was, after a while was not taking?
Well, what we discovered after the fact was, so I ended up going to a different hospital this time for the second heart transplant. So one of the things that I guess happened was the hospital that had done my first transplant refused to do a second transplant. And so that led us to having to try to find a new hospital that would take me on as a patient, which, if anybody's ever had medical insurance, pre-existing issues are kind of a huge no-no. And so that was a difficult thing to do. And we were able to successfully find that. And once we did, one of the things they discovered was that the heart that I got originally was actually a very high risk of rejection to begin with, because it had certain antibodies that were not compatible with my body. But because I was on life support and my body was starting to shut down, they had to take the chance and put that heart in because it was the one that was available at the time. And so we were unaware of the fact that it was a high risk until it was too late. But the hospital kind of knew all along that this was a strong possibility and just never told us.
Well, I knew it was high risk, but I didn't know it had those antibodies. I didn't know they never said anything about the antibodies.
Right.
So that was surprising when it was like, oh, we never even really considered that rejection would come, 3 years in. So
yeah.
So did the first hospital tell you about the rejection before they did the heart transplant?
Mm-mm.
So
no, they just listed it as a high risk is all they said. And so, which is obviously for somebody that's not in the medical profession, it's pretty, that's generic.
The hospital would have told us about rejection, and they probably did go over it, but he went from, you guys know from before, like well to flatlining in 45 days. So there wasn't all the prep that we got this time, the notebooks sent home with pages and pages and pages of information. And we didn't have that because we didn't even know that he was going to need a heart transplant until he was already, on life support. So I think it's not that they didn't tell us, really. It's just, it probably was somewhere in something that I looked at, but our life was already, wild and crazy by that point. So that makes sense.
Yeah.
Mikhail, if you can tell us a little about what this, experience is like for yourself. Granted, it's nowhere close to what Glen is going through, but there's a lot going on with you, mentally, emotionally, trying to keep everything up, keep it together. Where is your mental state at this time? How are you able to kind of soothe, relax, let go when, where is your head at this time?
Honestly, I mean, after the first heart transplant, our life changed for the better. We realized that our priorities were all out of whack. And so I think this time around, sort of knowing what to expect, I don't know if that was good or bad, honestly, but if I didn't have faith, my faith in God and just trusting in his plan, whatever that's going to be. And if that means he's not here, there's nothing I can do to change God's plan. So I kind of just have to go with it. And I have days still where I panic or freak out, or there's some trigger and I just start sobbing. But we just try to live moment by moment, hour by hour, day by day, because we just have no idea what life looks like ever, because it's been so crazy the last 5 years. So I don't know. I try to stay focused on that and not let my mind race. My mind will race and obsess over things. And so I work really hard to not allow that to happen and pray instead, and just try to, not have my focus be on all the bad things that could possibly happen, and just enjoy what we have.
I want to kind of piggyback off of Sid, because I watched you back and forth at the hospital, just back and forth. How did you keep balance with back and forth to the hospital with kids, taking care of home? How did you balance, and how did you mentally hold up?
I don't feel like I balanced it very well, if I'm honest. You do the best you can, but you don't really know, you're missing your kids terribly. They're missing you and not understanding what's going on. Our kids are older now, a little bit older. So they're 10 and 13 and 17. And so it's a different experience for them from the first time around. But it was still, horrifying to them, terrifying. And so, there were days I'd stay at the hospital for multiple days and not see the kids other than, we might FaceTime. My parents and my sisters were really great. They came and stayed with the kids so that their routines could stay somewhat the same. And I think that helped the kids a lot to not be so worried. And then they would trade off who would bring the kids up to the hospital. But we didn't even do that a whole lot because it was so hard on them to be there. So it was hard. I felt torn a lot. Like, I want to be with him all the time. And I lived at the hospital for almost 70 days with him. But is that the right thing to do? Should I be home with our kids more? Do they feel abandoned by me? And I had to but then I'd, pray about it and think and calm down and think, no, I need to be here with him. This is where I need to be, and they're being taken care of, and nobody else can be here with him the way I can. And so, but I don't feel like I balanced it well, but you kind of just have to do what you have to do. You don't know what the outcome's going to be. I don't know how it impacted our children because I'll never know what the other choice would have been. So.
You said that, you guys were kind of 3 years in to the transplant before complications arose. Is there ever a point of which you can get comfortable after a transplant? Is there a safe zone or, a red zone that you stay in, kind of a probationary time? Is there any time that you can just kind of breathe and say, hey, we don't have to worry about this?
Yeah, technically, yes. The first 6 months is you're exceptionally high risk. and you're at the hospital all the time and they're checking your levels constantly and things like that. And then the farther out you get, the you're getting closer and closer to, I guess, what you'd call a safer zone. The 5 years and out is kind of like the threshold for like, okay, you've really made it. We're not going to check in on you too often anymore. You're not going to have a lot of appointments and things like that. And so things get, a little bit more sparse once you get to that 5-year mark. But, but I mean, even at the 3-year mark, I don't think that it was expected. It was just, something that just kind of happened out of nowhere. So, and I would say, to piggyback on what Mikhail was talking about, I think one of the things that really changed this time around with our experience was the first heart transplant was during COVID. And so I was at the hospital alone the whole time, like up until like the last couple of days. She was allowed to come visit for like a few minutes, but I went through everything by myself. This time around, she was there like and had a front row seat for like all of the, I guess, I don't even know how you would describe it, but all the pain and suffering and turmoil and surgeries and I mean, everything that happened and all the ups and downs. And I think this time around, she had a much different experience than she did last time because it made it so much more real. It was kind of like the doctor's telling you a story versus like you living the story. And I think that made a huge difference in how both of us kind of came out of the experience and what we're dealing with now.
Glen, I want to ask, how aware or coherent were you through this process of being in the hospital, and what was running through your mind through this?
You opened a can of worms.
What wasn't? No, I mean, I don't want to be generic, but I would say that there were truly so many different ups and downs. And I mean, the devil really attacks your mind a lot in these circumstances. And so I many times thought that, I thought the staff was plotting against me. I had only been there a few days and I thought I'd been there for like a month and a half. I went through a state of delirium because I wasn't sleeping. The pain that I went through this time with machines in my shoulder, machines in my leg, and being awake for all of it as opposed to life support. And being in the hospital for 70 days takes such a mental toll on you when you're bedridden like that, as opposed to the first time around, it was kind of like it was like ordering a pizza. It was like I was in and out, right? And it was quick and fast, and I was back up and in recovery like faster than I could even really think about it. And this time, it was like 40 days before they even found a heart. And I was like near death the whole time. And the doctors were talking about like, they don't know how I'm even functioning. And so there was a lot that I had to wrestle with this time around that I think, God spared me from the first time. So it was a major difference. So a lot of different thoughts of like, I know that there was definitely a point when I felt like I wasn't going to make it. And so I was very much like preparing in my mind to not be there for my wife and the kids. And at one point I was like yelling with the hospital about, I just wanted to go home because I just wanted to see my family one more time. And stuff like that. And they had to fight with me about how like I wasn't well enough to go home. And if I went home right now, I was going to die and stuff like that. So it was a lot more of a mental battle this time than I think a physical battle. And that's been kind of an interesting perspective.
Patients like yourself that are, kind of there long term or often are kind of the best to, kind of give feedback about the healthcare system, your situation, your stays, the professionalism, clinically, what has been your experience, with hospitals, providers, professionals, anybody that you've really come into contact clinically, what have been some positives, and what other things that may be negative that, you would like to see overhauled or changed, within the, medical system?
Yeah. My second transplant, and I would say that it was phenomenal. Outside of like the occasional like staff member that just wasn't like very attentive or like wasn't like the best, like all in all, very, very little to complain about across the board. I mean, the leading up care, the aftercare. I mean, I can't say enough about the hospital, and certainly, they saved my life. So I would say that is true for them. I think one of the things that you notice when it comes to just the medical industry as a whole is having gone to basically 3 different hospitals throughout this process, with the first hospital that didn't even really diagnose me and then just sent me home knowing that I was really unwell. And then the second hospital that did my first transplant, and then this one. I would say one of the things that I think really needs to change is whether your life is saved shouldn't be which hospital you pick. And I think that that's a real shame that there's probably people that have gone and sought medical care and sought medical attention that would still be here if they had gone to a different hospital. And so just not having, they want to have uniform healthcare, but they don't have uniform service. And I think, being able to provide the level of service, or saying, hey, we're not the right place for that, you need to go here, and being willing to let people know where they need to go to get the right level of care for whatever their ailment is, I think would really be a huge thing in the industry, because that has been a lived experience for me, and I know that firsthand.
I want to ask, how did that make you feel? You, Glen, you and Mikhail, how did that make you feel not getting the proper care at the first hospital, and then they're just sending you home? And then I have a 2-part is, did you have any issues with the insurance company's willingness to pay your medical bills?
So the first hospital, we didn't have insurance. It was put into place like 6 weeks later when he was basically almost on life support. So that was why they didn't want. That is why they were ready to send him home, was because we didn't have insurance, and they knew that. And so that, it's hard. It's obviously I was upset because it's the person I love, and they don't want to really care for him because we don't have insurance. And then once we did have insurance, they've been great. They've covered everything. We just got a bill from UT Southwestern showing what his actual charges, like not what we paid, but the actual charges. And I think it was 1.3 million. 9.3 million?
No, 1.9.
Oh, 1.9.
It was
Wow.
It was 1.9,
yeah, for 70 days and a heart.
Yeah.
1.9 million.
1.9.
And how much of that did you have to pay out of the 1.9 million?
I think it's like 6,000.
It's about it's about 6,000 is what I've had to come up with for that one. So
Look at God.
the,
Look at God.
yeah,
Right.
I mean so I mean our experiences were very different. I will definitely say the first time it very much felt like when I didn't have insurance that it was like, let's just patch you up and send you down the road.
Yeah.
Right. And then once I got insurance, it was like, well, where would you like to receive your care? And, and I mean, in all, it was good. And, insurance covered a lot. The first heart transplant, we ended up paying more than we did the second one. The first one was private health care, and we paid somewhere in the like $50,000-$60,000 range is like what our responsibility was. But then the second time, now I've now actually been given Medicare because of my condition. And so with Medicare, they covered almost everything. So, but yeah.
Something I do want to say that is maybe off topic, but something that most people don't know until they've experienced this is there was a lot of times that they were keeping him in the hospital like for a weekend or something over the last 2 years because it was like insurance will approve a test or a procedure or something if he was admitted, but not if he, it was something that they could do with him going home and him come back like on Monday, but then they have to get prior authorization. If you're admitted to the hospital, they don't have to get prior authorization from your insurance. Like
right.
It's just
they
done.
Can just run the test.
And so that was something we didn't know that was like maddening at first because he's like, I just want to go home. I don't want to be here. And then they're like, I know, but then you may not get this test covered. And so just throwing that out there for anyone that doesn't know or may get frustrated if they're kept at the hospital over the weekend or a few days or something. So,
yep.
Is there a like a cap or I guess a maximum on how many heart transplants you can get, depending on your situation? Like, is there going to be ever a point in time where they're just like, we can't, you maxed out or whatever,
You've reached your limit. Yeah,
exactly.
No, has anyone gotten 3?
I don't know that anybody's gotten 3 hearts.
I don't think so.
I've never even met anybody else that's had 2. So I only know of one person that's had 1. But I mean, like we did a support group that they have through the hospital. I guess what was that, 2 months ago now? I think it was 2 months ago. We logged on, and I mean, most of the people on there were 60s and 70s. And almost all of them, except for one, had kidney transplants. And one of them had a lung transplant. But that was it. And then there were a couple people that were on the list to get a kidney or get a lung or something like that. But none of them even had 1 heart transplant. So to have 2, I feel incredibly blessed. I mean, like it's, I don't want to say I'm one of one, but I would say that I'm probably one of very, very few. And, and I think, God very much had a hand in that. So to get another one, I don't know. I mean, honestly, as I'm only 6 months out from the last one and everything I went through, I'm like, I can't even imagine going through it a third time. But, but obviously, life changes and circumstances permitted, we'll cross that bridge if we once again get there. But where I think we're both hoping that this is the last one. So.
You're a miracle, Glenn, and you're just a product of what God can do. So I want to say that. I want to ask. I've seen you with a lot of swelling and in the hospital, and on the intro, I pulled one of the pictures and kind of 3D'd it. See like that's an actual picture, but we 3D the picture, and Glen was swollen everywhere. I want to ask, I still see a little puffiness. How long did they tell you how long that that's going to take to come down completely? And then if you could tell the audience what caused the swelling.
Well, will it ever come down? It'll probably get better, but I don't know that it'll ever go away completely. Part of the swelling is there's drugs that I have to take for the rest of my life that cause some swelling, some puffiness. So there's always going to be that element of it. Also, there's a very delicate balance of getting fluid off of my body versus not overworking my kidneys. One part of the story that I guess we left out was I was scheduled to actually get a heart and a kidney, but the kidney was damaged during removal from the donor. And so they ended up not giving me the kidney. They just gave me the heart because I needed it at the time. And they were planning to redo the kidney at a later date. And another miracle, after they put a new heart in, my kidney started working again and got back down to almost optimal levels. So, but they do expect that because of the medication that I'm on, some point in time in my life, I would have to probably get a kidney transplant as well, because of all the hard drugs that are, life-saving, but also damaging at the same time. As far as what caused a lot of it, a lot of the puffiness, I think, was caused by, the surgery itself was obviously one, but I think the impella was something that I had here in my shoulder that is, it's a source of, still a tremendous amount of pain, but basically a big giant rod that went through my shoulder and went into my heart and was pumping my heart for me while I was on life support this time around. And they had to do that in order to get insurance to approve the transplant, because I had to be well enough and stable enough to support the impella and be able to take that before they would even put me on the transplant list. And so a lot of that, I think, had a lot of the swelling that you probably see in the photos.
It's just the trauma.
But yeah, there's a lot of
trauma. Part of it, when your heart's not pumping correctly, then it can't. Yeah. Then it affects your kidneys, and then your kidneys can't keep fluid off your body. So
the kidneys are overworked, and your liver's overworked.
The heart and the kidneys go
things
hand in hand. They are telling us, if your heart's not working, your kidneys are not going to be functioning properly either.
Yeah. So I think that was a lot of it. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What are the ages of your kids, and what, do they understand about the situation now? If the whole thing is understood.
They're 10, 13, and 17.
I think they all understand it at different levels to some extent.
Their brains are obviously all at different levels. So and they all process things very differently too.
I would say our 17-year-old has just kind of accepted, he's reached a point of acceptance with me being sick. And I think it's caused him to kind of distance himself from just people in general because of fear of loss. Our 13-year-old, she's just Dad's still here, so I'm good. And she likes to tell her friends at school. She actually just came home last week and was telling everybody that my dad's on the internet, and they didn't believe her. And they looked it up, and they're they found our page, and they're your dad's had 2 heart transplants, and he's written a book, and oh my gosh, this is crazy. And so I think she thinks it's kind of cool. Our 10-year-old is, he kind of regressed a little bit. I think he had become such a big kid for a long time that he kind of reverted back to I want tons of hugs, and I want tons of like just time with you, and I want to like almost, you know, not a baby, but like but a young child, very
like
young child,
4 or 5
you
years
know,
old when he's 10.
and wanting that attention and time, and you know, and things like that. So they've all kind of reacted to it in their own unique ways.
I will say, before you ask your question, with the first heart transplant, I think we're both, obviously, you probably can tell, we're very open book. And I think we overshared with the kids about what he was dealing with. And so, and they were too young at the time to really hear all the things that we had. I mean, we shared more through the years, I should say, because it had, you know, been 5 years. But yeah, I think this time around, we almost held back a little bit of the details we were giving them, because we realized, I don't know. It's just, that is another thing to balance. There's a fine balance between, you want to be honest and they need to know the gravity, but then maybe the gritty details don't need to be there until they're at an age where they can handle it.
Yeah.
I want to ask, spoke about the kids. I want to ask both of you, Glen, you and Mikhail, how has mentally and emotionally affected you, and how are you navigating through the healing process of it, just trying to regroup and kind of going back to family life and just life and
It's a good question. I mean, I think honestly, I think we just went back to life. Like, we try to not, I mean, he has days where he just feels awful. And so there's still, and then obviously lots of doctor appointments. So it's not like we aren't all aware that he just had a heart transplant. And I don't want to make it sound like we pretend like he didn't have a heart transplant, but I think we just went back to life. Like, 2 of our kids are playing soccer again, and our son's working. And I mean, I think we tried to, like I said, we really try to live like day by day, hour by hour. And so I think we just went back to living life. I will say I did implement Sunday family dinner night. I felt like we really needed something that we all knew would be there even when the kids are gone. That was something that this isn't really a part of, well, maybe it's kind of a part of your question. I feel like all of our kids were kids when we went into the hospital in March, April, whenever we went in. And when we came home in June, and then really, like, my parents left and my sisters left and like life went back to normal, I feel like we didn't really have little kids anymore. It was like they all grew up. And while it was only 70 days, that was very hard. I mean, I was kind of freaking out at times, like, what happened to our children? Like, why are they? But I think they all had to become more independent because I wasn't home and he wasn't home, and they were relying on other people. And so, I implemented Sunday family dinner night because I didn't want to lose touch at all as they move on. You know, our oldest is 17 and going to graduate next year, and just wanted, I don't know if that makes sense, but.
It does. It definitely does. I lost the question that I had in my brain. Let's see. What is the current state of, your health? What has gotten better since that 70-day stay? What are we still working on? What is the prospect here of your health?
Still, I'm doing pretty good. There's
Well, your heart is,
my heart is great.
perfect.
My heart
Like,
is
I
fantastic.
think he got the heart of like a 20-year-old guy. So
Yeah,
his
I got
heart is.
I got a really good heart.
Yeah.
So that part of it's good. things that I'm still working on. I have osteoarthritis now. One of the side effects of getting so sick is that your body wants to save your life, and so your body starts to eat away at things. And one of the things that it eats away at is like your bones. It'll eat away at your bone marrow and your ligaments and things like that. And so being through this process, especially twice now, the osteoarthritis that I feel on a daily basis in a lot of my joints is like, it ages me, I think, a lot more than my physical number, because it adjusts the way I walk and makes me stiff and different things that I kind of have to deal with. So that's one thing. I guess my cholesterol is something that's still like they're trying to manage, stuff like that. So I'm still getting ready to go to a neurologist about some of the loss of like mental faculties and brain function, stuff like that. I'm also getting ready to see a sleep study doctor about like, making sure that I'm getting the proper sleep at night, and if I need to have like some type of like assisted sleep device or something like that. So just different things. So there's still challenges to face every day. We just kind of take them as they come.
In counseling.
Oh yeah, right.
Emotional, mental.
Right, emotional and mental stuff. Like I've been going to counseling this time around as well. So that's, I shouldn't say this time around. I went to counseling both times. Because there's a lot to unpack and work through, and and I guess we didn't really dig into it, but getting a new heart was really hard on our marriage for one reason, like because I came home and it was like emotionally it felt like I was married to a stranger, and so I had to
check out the first
like both times. No, both times. Oh. Like it was like I had to become a student of my wife all over again and kind of learn who she was and emotionally become invested in our marriage again and fall in love all over again. Things like that were, I guess kind of not in the pamphlet. They don't tell you that like you have reoccurring dreams about other things and other families and people that you don't know, and they don't tell you that you like are going to feel like your heart and your brain are disconnected for a long time, and that like they're not on the same page. And they don't tell you that things about yourself are going to change, like what foods you like or what colors what colors you're drawn to and things like that. So it's an interesting process to go through all the way around, and there's a lot of fine print to it. I think that you have to live through it in order to really understand and and appreciate it. But I think that's been a big challenge for our marriage, was that we had to go through that twice. And so it's been something for both of us to kind of live through, because she had to live through it too from a very different perspective.
And I'm gonna tell you, you just took my next question, Glenn. I literally wrote it down. I was gonna ask you. I was gonna mention the first time you told us you had to relove your wife again. So you just answered the next question that from the first heart transplant. So I'm gonna ask. This question is for Mikhail. As the caregiver, emotionally going through this, people don't really see the behind scenes of it. Did you have any emotional breakdowns through this process?
Yes, obviously you have to have emotional breakdowns. I mean, I will say I'm really good like in a crisis. So this time, like being in the hospital with him, I mean, I probably cried twice the whole time that we were in the hospital, those 70 days. And I mean, I just kept it together. Now I've been falling apart at random times ever since. So it's like all of the tears that you hold in, I think eventually have to come out. And so I'm sorry. Our son walked out here. You were on camera.
You're fine. Hi, how are you, handsome?
You need to go. You don't have clothes on and you are on camera. And you let the dogs out. Please come get the dogs, buddy. You're going to have to grab them. Sorry about that.
He's so handsome.
He's very handsome. He's been told that his whole life. I'm a little bit worried about what's going to happen when he starts dating.
He's going to have some serious girl problems. You already see it.
Yeah. Yeah, I worry about his green eyes.
What's up, Merrick? No, sir. No. She's fine. Just leave her. Okay. You need no, sweetie. You need to go. Okay. This is being aired to a lot of people. You really want to be seen on camera? Because you're afraid of being in front of people. So something that happened on my side this time, because of him being in rejection for so long, was I started to pull away emotionally. Merrick?
I just closed it on.
Okay, you go.
Yeah,
you're gonna have to get a. Okay, sorry.
You're fine. We get to see a part of the family life, so
Yeah,
it's cool.
This is our life. He doesn't stay put for long.
Mm-hmm.
So I started to pull away from him emotionally, and I knew that it was happening, but I didn't know how to stop it because I could see that he was dying. And so there's that part of me that's like, how do I handle, like, what do I do if he actually does die? I felt like I needed to be ready for that. And so part of my heart was closing off to be ready to handle that if it did happen. But then how do you still stay attached to this person that you need to be loving and caring for if it's their last moments? And so that is something that I guess just had to ask forgiveness for. And it really didn't change until to the hospital this time, like after the rejection, and he finally got picked up by the new hospital. And we still didn't know if he was actually going to get a heart because we were there 45 days, I think it was, before they found a heart for him. But it made it to where I fell in love with him all over again. Honestly, it was like I'd pushed him away in little bits and little ways for what felt like a very long time. It was probably, the better part of like a year and a half, that when I realized this might actually be my last moments with him, I've got to make the most of it. And I'm going to spend every moment with him, and I'm going to make him feel so loved. And so that's really when it changed. And then, then he comes home, and then he's got to readjust. There's been a lot of changes in our marriage, I would say, in 11 years.
And how is your health? Like, are you, outside, if you don't want to share too much,
I know,
it is medical information, but how is your own health? Has this caused any issues for, yourself, and how are you able to, maintain your health, for the sake of kind of having to carry everybody on your back here?
So two things. I'm bipolar, so my mental health will crash at times. It seems, like I said, I seem to do really well in a crisis, and I go into crisis mode, but then when the crisis is over, I tank, and I, deal with depression, and which is basically just being void. You don't care about anything. Other than that, I have physical pain. My entire spine is not doing well. Just discs out of place and degenerative disc disease. And so I live in a lot of pain every day. And it seems to be something I can kind of put out of my mind when he really needs me. But then as soon as I can rely on him again for things, it's like I back off a little bit and take my time to rest. I know that I put off doctors, dentists, things like that for a while because I couldn't think about me. I mean, I just kind of dealt with whatever was going on just so that I eventually I would go back to the doctor or the dentist or things for myself, but I don't know that that's the best way to handle it. But for me, I kind of just put that stuff on the back burner as much as I could when his health has to be the focus.
And I want to kind of piggyback off of Sid because you said you suffer with bipolar and depression.
Mm-hmm.
How did you get through this suffering with depression and bipolar? That is true strength.
Yeah, God. I mean, I honestly, like, I look back and I'm like, how did I go through all of this? Like, how was I not, because I mean, it's for people that are bipolar, they will know how hard it is, or if they live with someone. I mean, I've had so many moments of depression in our 11 years where I can't get off the couch or out of bed. And somehow with both heart transplants, I have just, God has given me the ability to just push through until he was well enough for me to have that time to, I guess, fall back into depression. I don't know. To me, that's a miracle that God's allowed me to be there for him and to manage so much. I just wish sometimes it was all the time and not just in those moments when he needs me. But I guess that's part of our marriage, is we rely on each other and have to do that because of each one of our health. So
I missed a lot. Huh?
You'll have to go back and watch it.
Yeah, I guess so.
It's all right. What type of things are, on the agenda once things have leveled out? Are there things that you guys had on the books you wanted to do, accomplish, before everything kind of went down in the pits again? Is there anything, on the agenda for when, you are physically, mentally, financially able?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I'm currently trying to rebuild our company, which, was one of the things that obviously takes a hit when you go through these kinds of things. But we also are hoping to get back to Puerto Rico as a family. That's something that we really been looking forward to. And
you wrote another book.
I did write another book that hasn't published yet, but we're waiting for February because the holidays are not a good time to publish. But I wrote another book, so that's another thing. I'm working on another book now. It's a little bit different, so it won't be so much about life, but just kind of a joyful book, I guess, if you want to call it that. But I mean, not that the other ones aren't joyful, but yeah, not so heavy, more lighthearted.
Not so heavy.
So, but yeah, so I guess those are the things that are on the books.
Yeah.
So,
And I have, because I know we're almost there, but I have to ask this question. Do you feel as though your marriage is stronger now after you both had to learn how to love each other again?
Yeah.
I would. Yeah. No, I definitely would. I would say that from a male perspective, and I guess it's, maybe it's a little bit cheesy, but I think as a guy, like, one thing you always worry about is would she stay if I wasn't able to provide anything, like if I wasn't doing all the things that I do every day, that kind of thing. And I think even from the first transplant, but certainly the second one, it's one of those gifts that you get that you don't expect to get and you didn't even ask for, but you realize after the fact that, like, it really does strengthen the way that like you feel secure in your marriage, because you know, for a long time there, it's like I'm not doing anything of, you know, I guess what people would talk about or call worldly value, right? And so, you know, for her to still stay there and, you know, kind of like everybody says the line like in sickness and in health, but you know, when it's really tested, I think it changes your relationship forever. And I don't think you can go back from that.
Mikhail, what about you?
Well, you asked me the question again. I'm sorry.
Yes. Do you feel as though your marriage is stronger after you both?
Oh,
had
that's right.
children
I'm so
together?
sorry. Yes, I have a very short memory. Yes, I do think our marriage is stronger. I don't have that same reason, obviously, because I'm not a man or the provider. I don't worry about that in the same way. I think, you can't go through something that hard and love someone so well through it for your marriage to not be stronger. It was so incredibly difficult to see everything that he went through. I'm gonna get teary-eyed. It was so hard. Like sometimes I tell him I think it was harder for me, which isn't really true. But the physical pain he was in obviously was harder, but I felt it. He was out of his mind at times. Like it was so hard. And I don't know, to come out on the other side and have him home. And I was just telling him today, because his Christmas present for me got messed up, and I was telling him, like, you are a present. Like earlier this year, I really didn't know if he'd be here for Christmas. So I don't know if that really answered your question, but
It absolutely did. So we're almost at time. Just to close out, I want to ask, from your personal life experiences, both of y'all, can you give the audience some advice from your personal life experience in situations like this, even keeping a marriage strong? Mikhail, from your caretaker perspective, and Glen, from you just going through what you're going through with the transplant. Can you give someone advice just to keep going through a situation like this?
I think something that we've said to people, we've told this to people for years that had questions about how we had the marriage that we had or went through the things we went through, is that it really is, I say it's simple. It's not simple, but it's simply that you just have to put the other person before yourself and always be thinking about their needs ahead of your own. And I am naturally a pretty selfish person. It takes God to help me to put him first. And I don't do it all the time, obviously. I'm very far from perfect, but I think if you wake up every day and you just tell yourself, like, this is my person and I'm going to do whatever I need to do to be, in my case, like the best wife for him, whatever that looks like for that day, that hour, whatever it is. And I try to pray that every morning. I ask God to help me be the wife that he needs today, whatever that is, because you obviously never know what the person you're in a relationship is, how they're going to wake up, or what their day is going to look like, or what they may be going through. And so I try to just adapt and be his support. It's my job. I feel like God gave women the role to be their husband's helper. And whatever that looks like, I help in our business. Really anything, whatever help he needs, that's my role, is to be his helper. And I try to wake up every day with that in mind. And I think that for me helps keep things like, I don't know, you talk.
I guess from my perspective, I tend to tell people that there's no replacement for time, and for me that really lives itself out in that we have so many memories together, and it's like, and that's where you find yourself in a marriage where you feel like your spouse is irreplaceable because you've gone through and experienced things together that only come with time, and I can imagine, those couples that make it 30, 40, 50 years in marriage. It's like they've been through so much life together and so many struggles and so many ups and downs and so many health problems, and and they've come out the other side of it, that it's like there's no replacing that with like the next person that walks by. And so I think for marriage, it's like you have to invest that time, and it gets hard. Like, those first few years, you kind of like, should I just cut bait and run because things are getting hard and it's not easy? And it's like, but if you push through those things, you come out on the other side with something that's greater than you could have ever imagined, and you feel it. You really feel it. So.
And we do want to give you the chance to participate in shameless plug. So you do see your information scrolling across the bottom here. Please let our viewers know how they can contact you if they resonated with anything, any part of your story, either one of you, what you may have for sale, if you want to advocate for anything in particular, anything that you want to shine a light on or put forth that you are doing. You have the floor.
You want to go
talk
first?
about the book, or
we can talk about the book he's writing. We're about to publish his second book. It's for basically for women. He wrote it for our daughter in case he wouldn't be here, for her to know the things she needs to know when she enters the world of men. And so it's really good. And I think we hope it helps a lot of people. It's
Before I Say Goodbye is the title.
Before I Say
and
Goodbye.
It's A Father's Cheat Code to Men in Marriage is the subtitle. So that'll be on Amazon in a couple of months. And then, of course, my first book, which is Hard to Submit, which is still available on Amazon as well. And it's got actually our contact information in the book as well, so they could always reach out to us.
We're on Facebook Messenger. Just follow us on Facebook. We'll be promoting the book before we launch it too, so anyone can have it. Other than that, be a donor. He wouldn't be here without two amazing donors, so whoever those people are, so be a donor.
Yeah, definitely.
Yep, be a donor. I'm a kidney donor, so yeah, it's I'm an advocate. Change your status to donor. We want to thank you, Glen and Mikhail, for being a guest on Unfiltered, Unspoken podcast, and your transparency and your honesty through the process, and hopefully this will help someone else. 3 heart surgeries.
No, sir. Yep. This is the end.
You are strong. God bless you, Glen. And like I told you earlier, this is what stand by your marriage means right here, because most people would have given up, and we do see that a lot, is folks giving up when they're put in situations like this. So God bless you, Mikhail, for standing beside Glen. Glen, you have an awesome wife. And you have an awesome husband. So
yes,
it's such an honor. It's such an honor. And we want to tell everybody, tune in each and every Monday at 8 p.m. and make sure you go like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube Unfiltered, Unspoken podcast. You'll see the green and purple emerald. We have a similar name, but we're the green and purple. And Sid, we're going to keep sharing life experiences, right?
That's right.
Okay, we'll see y'all soon.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Stay there, Glenn. Move yet.